Hi everyone, and welcome to my July 2024 video. I'm super excited to bring through this message for you today on alcohol and the effects on mental health. Before I dive into the topic, I do want to make two quick announcements. One is that we'll be doing planetary upshift meditation. The next one is August, and we're doing it on August 8th, which is the 8/8 Lionsgate portal kind of energy that we're bringing. In addition to the new moon energy, the actual new moon is on the 4th, but because there's a power, there's something about the 8/8 energy and bringing in and emphasizing the Lionsgate Sirius alignment through the sign of Leo that we'll be doing it on the 8th. So would love to have you join us. It's free to join online, and I'll be sending out a newsletter shortly with all the links to sign up for that. The second announcement is that I am going to be teaching my class, my Psychology of Awakening course, one last time. I'm going to do a live class coming up in this fall. So anyone who has been interested in taking the course and curious about it, this will really be the last time that I'll be doing a live supported container for it. So I'm in the process of re-recording and creating all new teaching videos for the course. And anyone who's already signed up for the online course will automatically be getting the new content through the portal. And then anybody who chooses to sign up for the course in the fall, basically it's going to be a hybrid model where the teaching videos will be pre-recorded. And then we'll have a live class for 8 weeks in a row where we'll be working with the material, integrating it, processing it, doing interactive group things to work with the material. And, this course is all about embodiment. It's about presenting a conceptual map, a theoretical map for what the psychology of awakening is. Like, what is the psychological process of transformation that we go through in the process of spiritual awakening, as this is inherently a psychological transformation from, a state of unconsciousness to a state of full consciousness, a state of bondage to liberation, however you want to look at it. So it is a really awesome course, I think. I think it's a very unique, actually, presentation of this kind of material. So anyone who's interested, just FYI, you can be looking for more information on that in the coming month and a half or so. Okay, so let's dive into this very important topic, which has been on my mind for quite a while to present on. And this is the topic of alcohol use, drinking alcohol, and the effects on our mental health and our well-being, our overall process of being conscious, being healthy and well on a holistic level. So I want to start this conversation by saying that, it's evident that there is a movement now happening around drinking alcohol that is this conscious movement, really, that's really changing the conversation and is inviting a more nuanced conversation about alcohol consumption that is different than it has been in the past. So, the more conventional sort of past landscape in the conversation generally is more polarized in the sense of looking at addiction and alcoholism as a category. And of course, within that range of what we would call alcoholism or substance abuse, there's a range within that concept of levels of degrees of intensity, levels of degrees of dependency in sort of more clinical terms. Okay? But the whole conversation is about alcoholism as a phenomena, as a disorder, as, in some circles, a disease, right? So what we're wanting to do here is broaden the conversation beyond, am I an alcoholic or not, right? So that's the intention, is to participate, for myself, to be participating here in this wider conversation that's happening in the culture at large and in the field of mental health and, spirituality, all these things. Like, let's just widen the conversation to just looking at the effects of alcohol, period, on ourselves. How does it impact us when we drink alcohol? And then, of course, how often do we drink and how much, and what's the context with which we choose to consume alcohol, etc. Now, the main thing that stands out to me about this is that there's a certain section of the culture that has very much normalized drinking on a regular basis. Okay, social drinking, again, this is a range, but the idea that drinking alcohol on a regular basis is okay, is just what we do. It's just how it's normalized. It's validated as just how things are, right? So I can say for myself, growing up in the time and place generation that I did, and pretty much throughout my life until just in the last maybe 5 years, culturally, that it was just a given. Like, I started drinking, maybe earlier than some people, but when I was 14, I think, when I had my first exploration with alcohol, and then, it was just a part of the social group circle that we started drinking. Of course, not everybody did, but I'm just saying that was my experience, was that it was very much a part of my, peer group experience that was just normalized. It wasn't like, it's a range, probably on the heavier drinking side of that range in the social sphere, but it was normalized. That's the point here. And then it was going into college, very normalized, very much, even more so normal and part of the general sociocultural landscape. And then if we just look at this at large, I think everyone can agree that in American culture, that normal drinking is very normalized. That normal drinking, meaning frequent drinking and even daily drinking at some level, is normalized. And even this idea that, 1 or 2 glasses of wine a night, or whatever, 1 or 2 drinks a night is okay, is healthy. And in fact, even in the FDA, there were studies done at some point in time that actually made that claim, that I forget exactly the details, but it was basically the idea that, like, having a glass of wine a night didn't have any negative health effects, and it was deemed, within that paradigm, like, okay, healthy enough, like, no problem. Like, yeah, that's okay. That's that's healthy. That's verified with the, official stamp of the FDA that's okay. That's healthy. There's no problem. Interestingly, I just came across a podcast that was talking about, apparently, this was like a New York Times thing, I guess, that a client of mine told me about, that actual research study that they were using to make that claim has actually been debunked, and the FDA themselves are reversing their position on that. And that particular study was done in such a way that really wasn't showing the true situation. We always have to look at how research studies are being conducted and, look at the results with a critical eye. So even at this point, okay, the FDA themselves are revoking that position on the healthiness of alcohol. And so the point is, the point of this message and what my message is on this is that the effects of alcohol on our well-being and our mental health are extremely negative, and that it's actually way more detrimental to our mental health and our overall state of well-being and high functioning as an individual, which is what mental health is a part of. It's way more damaging and harmful than it has been accepted to be. And many of us are coming to this reality at this time as we're raising our consciousness, as we're evolving, as we're starting to look at these things, these lifestyles and these ways of being that have just been normal for a long time. We're starting to really question and look at wow, how is this really impacting my life? And so there's a movement that is, that's outside of the traditional, again, conventional paradigms around treating, alcohol addiction or, regular drinking that people are wanting to stop. Through the AA, which has been the traditional paradigm, which is great, and the AA is amazing and helps so many people. But again, as we're shifting and we're evolving, we're starting to expand and diversify the ways we're looking at alcohol use and healing and getting treatment and support around stopping drinking or cutting it down. Besides just the traditional AA model, which has its limitations, just like anything does. It's a specific, very organized structure and way of working with it. What's happening now is that people are starting to bring online other models that are outside of that are more scientifically based, more... it could include spirituality, or it could also just be agnostic. It doesn't have to include the spiritual dimension. Personally, I think the spiritual dimension is always a part of it, because we are spiritual beings. I mean, spirituality to me is just a natural part of our lives. It's a natural part of what is real. But in the paradigms that we are working in to look at alcohol consumption and, how we understand it and how we stop drinking, if that's what we choose, I think it's really important and valuable that we are looking at it now through more of a scientific lens, in terms of looking at the body and looking at how does alcohol actually affect us, right? So this is what I'm excited about. And I have truly witnessed so much transformation in my own world as of late. I would say just over the last 2 years, in my own life, in my own, inner circle, people that were daily drinkers for a long time, stopping drinking and witnessing them going through a profound transformation as a result, positive transformation. In addition to clients in my practice, as well as, in my client work, of course, I'm hearing about all my clients, friends, and, close associates as well. So I get kind of an inside scoop to a lot of different situations, and have just been had so many different situations brought to my attention around how powerful it is when people stop drinking alcohol or cut way down from regular use. So I'm just going to say a few things here to emphasize my points. Okay, one is that, I'm not making a statement about that, like, no alcohol is the best plan. I think there's a range here. So the question is, okay, like, well, what am I saying is unhealthy alcohol consumption or alcohol lifestyle? And what is in the healthier range? And of course, within both of those categories, there's always a range and a continuum. So it's, when we talk about subjects like this, we have to make kind of overarching claims and statements. And also in the recognition that every situation is unique and that these things are not black and white and that there's always matters of degree. Okay? So I think that's important. So, what am I saying is unhealthy concerning what I would highlight in any client work I'm doing as problematic and something that needs attention? And what am I saying is, in the range of, degrees of okayness and healthier relationships with drinking alcohol? Okay, so the unhealthy, what's clear and can be delineated is that regular daily drinking, 100%, is very damaging and detrimental to our mental health. And let me just talk about that for a minute. Okay, why is that the case? Particularly with daily drinking, even if it's just one glass of wine at night, okay? Now, the one glass of wine at night thing, just to digress for a moment here, is interesting because what's always been referenced in terms of that culturally is the European lifestyle of having a glass of red wine with dinner type of a thing. Well, I think it's important to mention that, in the past, historically, what I've learned is that the wine that was created, the wine that was brewed in Europe in older ages was much lower percentage of alcohol than the current wine. So wine itself has evolved to have much more higher alcohol content than it used to. Whereas it used to be literally, I think, maybe 3 or 4%. I mean, it's all a matter of how much fermentation is allowed for it to mature. So my understanding is that in the past, this one glass of wine with dinner thing, this European, the wine was actually way less high in alcohol content. Okay, I think that's important to bust that myth of like, oh, one glass of wine a night is okay. I mean, it's all relative. And of course, that was a very different cultural time. And we have to look at all the context in which that was taking place. And maybe it did make sense, wasn't as unhealthy based on other lifestyle things, etc. So the wine now, I think, is really like more around 11, 12%, which is a big difference. So the amount of alcohol that's in a drink also is a huge thing. That's the whole point, is it's the alcohol content itself that is what we're talking about here. That's the factor. Okay, so the point is that even a glass of wine a night at this point in our cultural landscape is concerning to me and is not recommended, in my personal opinion, for a person that is really working on raising their consciousness, healing themselves, and becoming a master of oneself. Self-mastery, really these higher levels of cultivation of ourselves, okay? So the reason why is daily drinking so damaging is because, first of all, so the alcohol is a poison. I mean, it's a toxic poison, period. So what does a toxic poison do, and why is that damaging? Should be pretty obvious to all of us, okay? A toxic substance is death to the body, right? Poison, toxicity is actually killing the body. So the body has to go through a whole process when the alcohol toxin is ingested. The actual high feeling, or the energy that we get, the intoxication from the alcohol, is literally the body's response to the poison. It's very seductive and illusory, because it makes us feel good, in the sense of it's a numbing, it's like an anesthetic. So it numbs immediately any pain or anxiety. I mean, we know that the first sip that we take, it's like instant, and that's why it's so desirable for so many people as a a medicine at the end of the day. But to understand that response, the intoxicated feeling that we like, that euphoria, is actually the body's freaking out response to a toxin. And there's a whole science that is explained around this, which I'm going to refrain from getting into, but I'm going to point you in the direction of a couple of great books where, if you want to look at the science of all this, you can get all those details, because they are very profound and clear. And in terms of just biochemistry and looking at how the body works, it's all explained very clearly. So everything I'm saying is backed by the science and the biology of all of this. Okay, so what does the body do in response to this toxin? It has to go through the whole system to process, right? So anything that's toxic gets processed by the liver, and there's a specific impact of that process that has a domino cascade effect on the whole body, which has many, many different negative impacts that are all lead to a overall picture that shows how damaging this is to our physical body, and then therefore, of course, our mental health and our whole life as a whole. So what happens specifically is that, in response to the toxic overload that the liver is trying to process, there's an impact, just depending on the health of the liver and how much alcohol is consumed, that creates a lot of stress hormones. Cortisol is the main one. But in essence, a lot of people, when they're drinking daily, get into this vicious cycle, which plays out on a daily basis, okay? The vicious cycle is that, okay, so you start drinking at the end, you drink at the end of the day to relax, to calm down, to, basically self-regulate from the stress of life. You've gotten through the day and you're having a drink that's there to help you feel better and calm and relaxed, and sort of, let go of the stresses of the day, to release anxiety and tension and depression perhaps as well. So in a sense, I'm talking specifically about daily drinking again, okay? I'm going to talk about other, this isn't, again, a black and white statement about all drinking, but this daily process is really what I'm emphasizing. So we drink, let's just say in general, to relieve anxiety and stress and depression, to get a break, right? To celebrate, we could say, which is an illusion again, the end of the day, okay? And then, the body has to respond and process that alcohol through the night. And number one, it affects the sleep cycle, so it doesn't allow the body to actually, because it's dealing with all the cortisol and the sugar. So the blood sugars, the cortisol, are all sort of jacked up from this onslaught of this toxic poison in the body that's being processed. So it affects the sleep, So, and then the next day, what happens is then the person is dealing, whether they're conscious of having like a hangover or not, they're still processing it. Like it's still like a there's a heaviness, there's a film, there's an impact where the person is still processing it. And here's the key, is that the impact of the alcohol from the day before has created a whole lot more anxiety, agitation, dysregulation in the nervous system, okay? It's like even if the person isn't like having the shakes are the full expression of even what's maybe on a more subtle level, a shakiness in the system that's created as a result of it. So the impact of the alcohol from the night before is coming through and cycling into the next day as starting the day from a place of anxiety, agitation, depression, all the things that come with that, right? Which is self-doubt, which is mental fog, right? All those things. So it's creating dysregulation is the point in all these ways. Then the person is, having to deal with life, get through the day as best, dealing with all the things. The stressors that come in are less able to be healthily processed because the system is already dysregulated, and there's already more anxiety, agitation, irritation. There's just a smaller bandwidth to deal with life because the nervous system is agitated from the poison, the toxin, and then the reverberation of that into the whole body and mind. And so then, okay, then the end of the day comes and I get to have my glass of wine or my whatever, however much it is, And then I get the relief and it affirms like, oh, I'm so grateful I have this relief, it's whatever, it's happy hour. It's time, to have my glass of wine or to start drinking for the night. And then the cycle just repeats. And this is it. This is the hellish trap that it puts people into, and in a nutshell. Okay. And then, of course, the specifics of a person's own mental health and stressors in their life and all of that are unique to each person. But biochemically, this is very scientifically validated. I think, people can relate to this, probably, even if you're not a daily drinker. But just, the impact of the morning after, like a heavy night of drinking in particular. Or for some people who are more sensitive, even like one glass of wine or two can, like the next day, you can actually feel it more acutely because you're not used to feeling that, and it's much more like the contrast is highlighted of how negative it affects us. Okay, so this is why daily drinking, even if it's just a glass of wine, is really damaging. Okay, now let's just look at self-regulation and how important it is. So what happens, what we need to learn to do as we heal our trauma and heal our nervous system overall is the nervous system has to be trained and has to practice dealing with activation and dealing with stress and anxiety. And what we have to learn is how to soothe ourselves, how to teach these, cycles of activation, teaching the parasympathetic nervous system how to help us come back down and find peace again and come and regulate ourselves back to a healthy baseline of well-being and peace and calm and okayness, right? This is a key part of our whole journey of psychological healing is self-regulation. How can we manage our anxiety? How can we, face ourselves, turn towards ourselves, and resource ourselves when we need it? Okay? So what happens when alcohol, or, other drugs as well, but I'm focused on alcohol here. But the basic principle is that if we're using alcohol to self-regulate on a daily basis, or even on a, even not daily, but regularly. But the daily thing, again, is the worst. If we're doing it on a daily basis, we're interrupting. When the substance comes in, we have lost our ability to process the day, to go through that cycle at the end of the day, which is so important, of processing the day and doing that in a conscious way, and coming home to ourselves. Okay, like, yeah, talking to a friend, whatever it is, just thinking things through. Like, there is a real essential value and importance to our daily lives to process our day consciously, or even throughout the day with the ups and downs that happen, to process things consciously and come back to center. And when we insert alcohol on a regular basis, we are interrupting that process, and the alcohol becomes the soothing thing, becomes the resource. And it works so well as that resource in the moment. That's what's so difficult about it. I totally get it. But this is the danger. This is why it's so dangerous, is because it works so well. And it is so not helpful and the opposite of helpful. And it's hurting. It's just creating this vicious loop on a daily basis that people are entrapped in. I drink because I'm anxious and depressed and I can't handle, or whatever the story is. But I drink because, it's normalized by the culture, but also like it helps me cope. And then it creates more stress and anxiety and depression. And then I drink to cope with that anxiety, depression, agitation, can't handle, stress too much. And then it just becomes worse and worse over time, over the years. Okay, so I think this is clear enough as a basic template for why specifically the daily drinking is very damaging, in my opinion, to our mental health, to our well-being, just looking at that and the nervous system regulation piece of it, okay? And that the alcohol is literally a poison. It is. And that it's a depressant as well, is the other piece. It actually is a depressant to the system, even though, again, the illusion is that it gives me energy and makes me feel better. But it's categorically a depressant in terms of, how it impacts the system. Okay, so that's the daily drinking piece. Now, there's a middle ground category here of like regular drinking, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, anything in that range of, or maybe it's binge drinking on the weekends. Okay, maybe during the week you don't drink and then on the weekends you do, or special occasions. So I'm just going to apply everything that I just said about daily drinking to that category as well, but obviously the daily cycle thing isn't there in the same way. Okay, which is great. It's much, much better. Anything other than daily is much better than daily. But it's still, all the other things still apply. It's just not on a daily basis. Okay? So the damaging effects on the system, the suppression of the system that results from it is holding people back, and it literally is the toxicity of the alcohol. Okay, so everything I said about the other one applies to this category as well. Drinking alcohol on a regular basis, 3 times a week on the weekends, but again, a regular cycle, okay, throughout the week. So regular drinking, not daily, but regular. Also very very damaging and not helpful for becoming conscious, for healing, for healing the body, for helping the system learn how to regulate. It literally takes us out of ourselves in a certain way. It's a very disembodying type of thing. In fact, this is a little more esoteric, but, alcohol is an extractant. That's why it's used as it just distills things out. So it extracts, that's why it's used in all the tinctures, right? Because it extracts the essence of the plant or the thing that the tincture is being made of. So it's an extractant as a substance. And so it does the same thing with us on a spiritual level. It extracts us sort of out of ourselves. I know that might sound a little out there to some people, but if you just look at it like we are an entity, we are a thing, just like a plant. And so the alcohol is like extracting us out of ourselves, if that makes any sense spiritually, if that clicks for you. But we can just even see, like the fact that people, when they get to a certain alcohol saturation, they black out, okay? So you can see, just without the more esoteric reference of extracting your spirit from your body, you can see just how the more alcohol you drink, the more unconscious you're becoming, right? The more harder it is to make a good choice, like to stop, or whatever the choices are that are made. You lose control over yourself, over your choices, the more drunk that you become. Okay, so it's easy to see on that level that you're becoming less and less conscious to the point of them blacking out, which is full unconsciousness. Okay, so just a general, this is not more the physiological, scientific, but psychologically, the more alcohol we're drinking, we're becoming, it's supporting unconsciousness. And then whenever we drink, we have to go through a process of kind of coming back fully online, coming back in the body, processing all of it through, coming back to like a baseline of, okay, like I'm here, okay? So the last thing is the category of what I would say is less harmful and, on some levels would be okay and maybe even like I would support as healthy relationship to alcohol consumption. Okay, so number one, that would be drinking alcohol, and of course the type of alcohol that we're drinking matters a whole lot, just like anything we put in our body, like food, etc. So this would be like high vibe alcohol, I would say, which is something that's crafted, that's organic, that's crafted in a way that's natural to the earth, that is where the people who are creating it are in a loving, conscious relationship to it, that's all kind of part of the natural order of things, just like organic produce or biodynamic, like that all the factors that have gone into the creation of that wine or, like, for example, tequila, to me, is one of the ones in that type of alcohol that certain types of tequilas or mezcal that's processed, from a plant, from the cactus, right? So it's a plant medicine in that way. Whereas grain alcohol, created from grains or, sugar cane or whatever, have a different vibration, have a different thing. So every type of alcohol is different in terms of all the factors that have gone into creating that substance and what the intentions are and what the energetic blueprint is, and all of that really does make a difference, number one. Okay, and then what I would say in terms of frequency would be very infrequent, like every 2 to 3 months at the most, and like one drink or two at the very most. Okay, that would be like, that's kind of even at the high end of what I would say is like could be healthy and, celebratory around alcohol consumption, and that it would be done only as a celebratory thing with other people around, a special group coming together and all having this time to connect, to celebrate, to basically be in a high vibe celebration template together. It doesn't have to be a specific event. It can just be a celebration template. Okay. Now, people bring that celebration template idea in a very colluded, in an unclear way to the daily drinking. Okay, but that's false. So I mean, real celebratory energy, where people aren't drinking regularly. This is a special occasion. This is a high vibe cocktail or creation, and we're using it in moderation and in a truly celebratory high vibe environment together, to connect, to celebrate, to be in joy, to be expansive. Okay? We don't need alcohol to do that, but I'm saying if it's used in this particular template, at the most, I would say every 2 to 3 months, 1 or 2 drinks at the most, that I think could be a healthy way of relating to alcohol. And understanding that it's toxic, taking measures to, there's lots of things we can do to mitigate the negative effects, but the energetic template, right, that we're using anything with, any plant medicine or anything that we use, including alcohol, makes a big difference to the way the whole thing is processed through the system. And it's still toxic though, right? So, but as long as it's in small amounts and infrequently, I would say it could be okay and positive, okay? But anything other than that, I'm delineating as emphasizing that it's actually much more harmful than it's made out to be. And I could go on, and then getting into more the nuances psychologically of the negative effects on people's lives. But I'm not going to go into that here. I want to just stick with what I've said, emphasizing the pieces that I've already emphasized, which are physiological, nervous system regulation, and the physical response of the liver to the toxin and the cascade events that follow. I will say one more thing, which is the effect I forgot to mention on the microbiome. So as we know, this the gut-brain axis is very important to understand, and the science is really coming online fully now that validates this important piece in our mental health, where the microbiome, the gut, and the balance of the healthy bacteria is essential in not only, of course, our nervous system, but our immune system as well. Like the nervous system and immune system are actually much more interconnected than we ever knew. This is part of this new science, but also, so the microbiome is where almost all of our neurochemistry is created, like the neurotransmitters. So the dopamine, the serotonin, okay? It's happening down here, but it's all ending up here. Okay, so the alcohol kills the healthy bacteria in the gut and has very negative effects on the microbiome. And the microbiome, we're learning, is really essential to our overall health. There's no question about that. So you can just then connect the dots there, okay? It's not only the effect on the liver and this cascade of like stress hormones and agitation and dysregulation in the nervous system, it's also literally killing the good bacteria in the microbiome, and so killing the healthy functioning of the microbiome, of the gut, okay, our whole system of processing what we take in, our food, and transforming that into healthy stuff that the body needs. So it affects everything. These things are foundational, and they have huge effects on everything. It creates high blood pressure, inflammation, systemic inflammation, all these things, okay? So I am going to put the 2 books down in the description below for people to check out. I hope that you find this information helpful, and I really want to encourage you to share this with anyone in your life who you think it would benefit from. I know that it's a strong message, and it might come as a little bit of a rigid position, and it is a rigid position. That's pretty much what it is, and I own that. I think that's important that we take a stand on things where it's very clear, scientifically, biologically, as well as psychologically and spiritually, the negative detrimental effects. And like I said, there is a category, so it's not 100% rigid, where I think it can be, could be great. But that's a very different paradigm than the one that's been normalized and accepted and even stamped by the FDA until recently as being healthy and okay. And yeah, this is just what we do. And everybody just drinks at every single social event. It's how we let loose. It's how we relax enough to connect with each other. That's the other part of this, that needs to be changed. We need to learn how to be healthy and present and connect with each other and learn how to relax and have essential well-being so we can, connect authentically and create awesomeness together without taking in a substance that's basically just killing us. It literally is. I mean, it's a poison, so it's literally killing us. So anyway, I'll leave it here for now, and I hope this is helpful again, and please do share this with your friends and family, and I will see you next time. Bye.